Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the American Sports Connection. I'm your host, the one and only Joey Railroads. I have a very special guest for you tonight. You may know him as 6 Feet Swole, Big Match Cole, the human bottle rocket himself, Kinetic Cole Radrich. Cole, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, 6 foot full big nuts cold, but I am doing wonderful. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm hanging in there, man. Just trying to beat the heat.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
Now, I wanted to bring this up real quick before we get started, and I mean, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but I wanted to thank you. I saw your post you put on social media about you dealing with some depression stuff, and as someone that deals with that on the regular, I just wanted to thank you for putting it out there because, even in 2018, when you have someone you tell that to, they think there's something like, get away from me, or, you're kind of weird, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's still a stigma to it.
Absolutely. Or they think you're weak and like you're not man enough or whatever. Like, exactly. I'm not afraid of who I am anymore. That's the biggest thing is like, I'm not afraid of the person I am. Like, I know who I am. I know what I deal with. So I'm gonna lay it out on the table. If you don't like it, then screw you. You know what I mean?
Now, I just think that's awesome at your age, at such a young age that you're able to, this is me, take it or leave it.
Yeah, man. I spent the better part of 20 years trying to do anything and everything to impress people. I changed I tried to change who I was, change the way I acted for everybody else, and now it's like, man, why did I ever do that? Like, I'm a pretty decent human being as it is. Why would I ever want to change? So now, like you said, this is me. Take it or leave it.
No, dude, that's awesome. What the one thing I actually really wanted to know is what do you guys have out in the water in the Midwest? You guys have so much amazing talent out there.
I don't know. I think it's a little bit of something in the wine or the seawater, or the river water, better yet. Like,
there you go.
Midwest is just popping right now.
Yeah, because it's, you got the Chris brothers, you got Sammy Callahan, obviously, and then Trey Miguel, Myron Reed.
Clayton Jackson, Zachary Wentz. You got Ace Austin, you got Ace Romero. You know what I mean?
You
got
know,
a lot
yourself,
of people.
And then there's Manser, and I mean, you guys are loaded out there.
Yeah, man, it's fucking Midwest is blowing up right now.
I'll tell you a quick funny story about Mance Warner. When he came here, I think it was in April, I want to say. He wrestled for Tremont's company, H2O. And I'm outside waiting to get in line. He comes out and he goes, "Hey," he's like, "Who's got the beer?"
Yep, and here's the thing: the man should get a beer.
Yeah, that's totally him.
Exactly. Man came for the beer and then wrestling. Like, wrestling's an add-on with Mance. Like, beers is the number one priority always with Big Doggy, Mance Warner.
Absolutely. It was just so funny because we're just like chilling outside waiting, and he's looking around through all the fans. I need a beer. I need a beer.
Did he get a beer, though?
What's that?
Did he get a beer?
Yes, he did. I pointed him in the direction of someone that had one.
Hey, that's all that matters. Mance wants his beer.
Absolutely, man. Now, what were your first memories of wrestling growing up, Cole?
Let's see. First, so I got into it in about 2001. So what's weird is I remember watching wrestling in 2001. Like I remember watching it with my brothers and sisters. I was like 4 at the time, but I don't ever recall anything. But my first true memory of wrestling was like in 2004. The Undertaker came out with like the big dog or It's My Yard or something like that DVD. It was like whenever he returned from his hiatus at like WrestleMania 20.
Oh, when he went back to the Dead Man.
Yeah, and he had a DVD and it had like all his matches throughout his career, and like the DVD culminated in like the Kane match at WrestleMania 20. I don't think that's who he wrestled.
Yes.
And so so my parents love him to death. I was probably 2004, so I was 7 at the time. They wanted to do like they were doing something to try to keep me busy. I don't want to know. So they bought it on the TV. Well, I remember sitting down and I watched it. And for people that don't remember how the pay-per-views worked, or like millennials that don't remember how pay-per-views work, because pay-per-views died off.
Yeah.
In like 2009 area. So, like you got when you buy it on like the TV, you got it for like a full 24 hours.
Yeah.
Well, for like a better part of that 18 hours, I was watching that. Like that's the only thing I watched. So that was
you were getting the money's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think I woke up at like. So I think my parents bought it around 2:00. Say like around this ballpark. If my parents bought it at 2:00, I watched it all the way until for like maybe less than like. I watched it for 24 hours. Besides 6 hours where I slept, and I woke up early on purpose so I could watch it again because I was just absolutely like in love with the idea of wrestling. And then, I started like watching as much as I could get my hands on. If my parents went to Walmart, there's a $5 bin with a wrestling DVD in it. I got it. Like I ended up getting like 320 something wrestling DVDs by the time I was 18.
Holy cow! You can open up your own store.
Yeah, I ended up giving like 95% of them away, sadly, because I'm fucking stupid.
I remember you talk about being around about 7 years old with The Undertaker. That was when he debuted, when I was that age, and I'll never forget. I was scared of him when I grew up because at the time he wore like the old original Undertaker outfit, and he would like put people in body bags and stuff. So at like that age, that was terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. Like the person that terrified me was Kane. Like Undertaker was a dead man, but Kane just didn't give a fuck. And I'm sorry, I don't know if your show's like a
No, you can say whatever you want.
Okay. Like Kane did not care about you, your life, or anything else. So.
Oh yeah, so you were started watching around the time he probably set Jim Ross on fire.
Like this time I like I watched things and I started to remember it was probably I'd say 2004.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's about the time. So I think he set Jim Ross on fire in like late 2003.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it was somewhere in there because it was when he wasn't wearing the mask and had the bald head.
Yeah. Remember when he didn't have the mask and he had the weird hair for like probably a month or two afterwards?
Yeah.
Awkward because he was
after
bald.
he turned on RVD, that was weird.
It's okay, man. Like, cut the hair. Trust me, cut the hair. It's a good idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, when did you decide that you were going to give pro wrestling a try?
So, super basic story. Not really basic. I was like 12, I was probably about 10. And my cousin Mark was a wrestler for the IU wrestling team. And so in my head, I was like, man, I really want to wrestle. I was telling him, like, hey, I want to go to one of your wrestling events. because in my head he was a pro wrestler for IU. Because, you know, I didn't know what pro wrestling was. I go there and it's amateur wrestling, and I got super disappointed. But I ended up joining it, and the first thing I remember is I go to this, like, wrestling room, and there's just a match, and I looked over at my parents. I was like, where are the wrestling ropes? I quickly learned it's not pro wrestling, and I couldn't elbow drop people. But, like, I didn't know independent wrestling was a thing until, like, the 8th grade, which is an all right age. And I got to understand what independent wrestling was through deathmatch wrestling, because the first, like, independent wrestler I ever saw was J.C. Bailey.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, J.C. Bailey's, like, one of my fucking dudes. Like, you know, that was the guy, like, when I started wrestling, I wanted to wrestle. And so, once I discovered independent wrestling, I discovered there was wrestling in my hometown, which I never knew about, but it ran, like, every week, and it blew my mind. So, like, in my head, I had created this thing, like, I'm going to fucking wrestle. Like, it's no two ways about it. Like, I'm going to be a fucking professional wrestler. So once I figured out what independent wrestling was, I was all about being a professional wrestler.
Now, were you, like, shocked when you saw, like, deathmatch wrestling, because you said that was, like, your first kind of taste of independent wrestling, where you're like, oh my god, what the fuck is this?
Man, I was like a 14-year-old guy. I was a 14-year-old, and I was watching this. I was like, man, this shit's cool. Like, how do I get in on this? Because, you know, this is my first, like, taste of, like, any type of wrestling. I'm only going to enjoy what I know and see. So of course, like, I fell in love with, you know, the deathmatch sides of pro wrestling.
Oh yeah,
I didn't think anything of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember growing up, because I'm about an hour away from Philly, so I grew up with the whole ECW movement started, and that was insane. When you're used to watching, you know, WCW, WWF, and then you get that, you're like, holy cow, this is, like, so different. And I remember, I think I was either 12 or 13 years old, trying to convince my mom to buy me this VHS tape of, like, the Sandman fighting Mick Foley in a barbed wire match.
Is that the one where Mick Foley had his arm wrapped in barbed wire?
Yes.
I fucking love that match. It's on the Extreme Rules DVD, right?
Yeah. So it was always cool. Like, even when I met Onita last year, which was like a holy shit kind of thing. I told him, I was like, dude, I tried to convince my mom when I was, like, in 8th grade to get me FMW tapes. And he just sat there and belly laughed like a James Bond villain.
Jesus. Isn't that fucking crazy, though?
Cool. Now, tell me about your training. Like, what was that experience like? Who did you train with?
So, like I said, I discovered what independent wrestling was. So at 14, I went up to a guy that ran my independent shows who works at a gas station in my town. And I looked at him, I was like, hey, man, like, I want to be a wrestler. Like, tell me what I need to do, what I got to do. I don't care what it is. Just tell me what I need to do because I want to be a fucking pro wrestler. He kind of, like, looked at me and laughed. He's like, well, you got to wait till you're 16. He's like, but if you come and set up the ring, we'll let you hop in and you'll learn a little bit every show. And I was like, fuck yes. Put me, like, in my head, I was like, I just want to get set up a wrestling ring.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I want to do. So I was like, fuck yes, let's do this. Like, I'm ready, you know. So he said, like, show up on a Saturday. Everybody's there at 9 o'clock. We'll set up the wrestling ring. So I'm like, all right, not a problem. 9 o'clock, guess what? I was there by 8:45.
Nice.
Well, so my parents dropped me off, and my dad says, well, there's nobody here, Joey, or Cole, whatever. I don't care. And he's like, Joey, there's nobody here. are you sure? I'm like, yeah, he's going to be here in a minute. So my dad drops me off at the venue, which is maybe about half a mile out of my town. I waited for 3 hours before anybody showed up. So it was 12 o'clock. And I was like, fuck. And he shows up with
welcome
the
to
trailer.
indie wrestling.
What? Yeah, right? Welcome to indie wrestling. So he shows up with a trailer, with a thing, and he gives me, he helps me and him set it up together. Cool. But by the time that we set it up, speaking of which, I just drove right by him. Fuckhead. So we set up the wrestling ring. He's like, do you remember how to do it? I was like, I mean, yeah, like, I kind of just did whatever you did. He goes, okay. And so that, of course, we didn't set up the ring in time. But he goes, next time we'll set up there. I'll be here on time, blah, blah, blah. We'll get everything done. Cool. I'm a 14-year-old kid. I'm gullible as hell. So the next event, I show up same time because I'm dumb. Guess who doesn't show up till 1 o'clock this time? So I wait 4 hours at 16, or I was about 14. 4 hours for this man to show up to the venue with the trailer so I can set it up. He shows up with the trailer. He drops it off. He goes, hey, man, can you get a head start on this? I'll be back in 5 minutes. All right, whatever. I set up that ring by myself besides the cables because I still don't understand how they work in an hour and a half by myself.
That's impressive.
Like, and I'm not saying like, oh yeah, I set up 3 hours of stuff. I'm saying like, fuck, it sucks saying that.
Oh no, but for people that don't understand, like, it's incredibly time consuming to set up a ring if, like, it's just one person. Yeah,
and I'm not saying the ring was perfect by any means, like, but for somebody that did it once, like, it wasn't too bad.
Hey man, that's almost like trial by fire,
Yeah, and so the guy he's like, well, we don't have time for you to get in the ring. But it was like 4 hours before the show, and everybody was just standing around, stupid. So this continues on happening, and in my head, I'm like, man, I'm never going to get arrested. And then one day he goes, hey, do you want to be a ring announcer? And I'm like, sure. Do you have any experience? I was like, nope, not at all. So I started doing ring announcing, and then I started doing refereeing, and then I started doing commentary. So, like, I started doing all these things in wrestling that were available to me, and it ended up being a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, so you learned a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I learned a little bit of everything. And then by the time it was time for me to wrestle, by the time it was time for me to train, like, he's just like, well, we'll talk about it. And so I kind of started, like, thinking, like, man, maybe this isn't for me or whatever. But one show, he randomly looked at me, he goes, hey, do you want to get in the ring real quick? I'm like, fuck yeah, sure. So I slid in the ring, and, like, mind you, it's in my hometown, but, like, there's nobody there. It was, like, a couple of, like, wrestlers walking around.
Yeah.
But, like, I had that moment where I was just like, fuck, this is awesome. Like I could never describe this feeling to you that I had, but, like, I felt at home whenever I stood in the ring for the first time, and like, I'd never been in one. So I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, so, coming up, I turned 16, and the guy's like, hey, it's $500 to train. You have to sign a 4-year contract, which if you think about it now is fucking stupid. But it was like a 4-year contract.
That's insane.
He's like, right? But in the thing of the contracts are fucking crazy too. Well, I still remember it to this day. So I'm like, yeah, no problem. Like for my birthday, my parents offered me a sweet 16 party for $500. Well, what do you think I took?
You took the money, of course.
Yeah, exactly. I took the money. The guy shows up on my 16th birthday at my doorstep with his contract in his hand. And so he shows up with a contract in his hand, and he's like, I need you to sign this. And it said first year, I would do nothing but train. Second year, I would wrestle on only his shows without pay. Third year, I could wrestle on his shows without pay, but I could get booked elsewhere, but he would also have to be booked with me. And the fourth year, it was I could wrestle wherever, but he got 25% of my booking fee.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And the fucked up thing is that contract technically should still go to today because I'm not 21 yet.
Yeah.
So, like, it was weird. And I always joke to myself, like, oh shit, I need to get Dustin his money. So, you know, he showed up on my birthday, I signed the contract, whatever. I want to be a wrestler. Then he comes up to me, and he tells me where the training's at, and my dad is starting to take me there. And in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's going to be in this, like garage or this gym or whatever. Come to find out, it's in the dude's side yard. And it's in this broken down ring that has all this dust on it, and there's leaves in the ring, and there's twigs, and it's just grungy. Oh my god, yeah, like it was begging for Hep C or something like that. And like, of course, there's stained blood on it because of the wrestling. And so I'm like, oh, okay, man, like, fuck it, this is my dream, and whatever, I'm going to do it.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
so we trained so we trained like 4 times, I think it was. And I learned how to bump. I learned how to take a suplex. I learned how to take a clothesline. I learned how to sell, and that was it. And then one day, I just never heard from him again. I was like, in less than a month, he stole $500 from me, and never taught me how to wrestle. And like, I fucking got so upset with professional wrestling. Like, I thought that was my only way in. I thought that was the only wrestling school I could go to. And then Infinity Pro ran when I was 16 in a town like 30 minutes ahead of me. And if you've never heard of Infinity Pro, like, they're like probably the best at the time. They were probably like, including the production and the wrestling, they were like the best company in Indiana. Sadly, they don't really do much anymore. But I went to the show, and I'm talking, this show had strobe lights. It had everything was darkened around it besides the wrestling ring. You know, every wrestler had an entrance video. All the matches were fucking crazy good. And so I was like, wow, I went to the show, and I had been on a really bad anti-wrestling kick for like the 8 months that leading up to it. And in my head, I'm like, wait, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I love wrestling. Like, this shit's my dream. And I'm just sitting here, and I had put on a shit ton of weight too because I was just, of course, depressed. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, I need to get my shit together. So
it was almost like a wake-up call.
Exactly. It was a wake-up call. So I kind of just, like, buckled down, and I went to the promoter after a show named Donnie Tsunami. And I was like, hey, man, like, can you point me in the right direction to wrestle, like, to get trained? I want to wrestle. And he knew I got fucked over, but he knew I also loved wrestling so much. So he recommended me to a company called New Wave Pro Wrestling out of Terre Haute, which is only like 45 minutes from where I live.
Okay.
And then from December of 2014 until March of 2015, I trained there every Sunday and like maybe like a random Tuesday here and there. And I became a professional wrestler when I had my first match on April 26th of 2015.
How do you think they helped you become the performer you are now?
So, if we're being honest, New Wave Pro taught me the basics really, really well. It left a lot of room for, there's a lot of room left for knowing my character, knowing who I am. Like, they didn't really, like, pound that. They didn't teach me that a whole lot, honestly. They taught me a whole lot of, you know, how to do things in wrestling, like take a bump, right, throw a clothesline, throw a drop kick. Like, that's what they all taught me, right? But I didn't, you know, most of my learning from where to, as a character of who I am, or what I can do best, is been a lot of trial and error. You know, I've had guys like Dave Christ or Sammy Callahan or Jay Christ. They've been very influential in helping with me build up who I am as a character. Like, you can tell, obviously, like, I ramble a lot because I get excited about things. So they're like, well, you're kind of like, you know, kinetic. You're like, you know, you move around a lot and you always talk a lot when you get excited. So that's where that came up from. That's who I finally was able to, like, whenever I found out that I was kinetic, like, I started getting a lot of fucking, a lot of buzz about me. But before that, like, I kind of just didn't know who I was. But New Wave Pro did a really, really great job of teaching me the basics, teaching me to respect wrestling, teaching me that, the rights and wrongs of professional wrestling as well.
Well, that's cool because there's a lot of shindies out there that will take your money, man, and not teach you the right way. Because that's a whole rant I could go on. But like even years ago, it was super hard to find a school. Now you can go sometimes 10 minutes down the road in your town, and there's 3 or 4 of them.
Yep. There's 3 or 4 of them, and none of them have a damn idea what they're doing.
No.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm not saying I know a lot either.
You mentioned Dave Chris. You lived in his house for a little while. What was that experience like?
And I lived with Dave from August until about December, so roughly about 4 months. It wasn't a bad experience. I learned how to work out, and I lost a whole bunch of weight, and I was starting to do really good. And then, I got to become close with my brothers Myron Reed and Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz, and I learned and Sam Heights, Samantha Heights, and it wasn't a bad experience. I learned a lot, but at the end of the day, I ended up having some personal shit at home. And then I ended up moving back to Indiana. But, with Dave, I learned a lot about, who I am as a person. I learned, through, trial and error that I love who I am as a person. I'm not ashamed of who I am anymore, because me and you had a discussion, right before this, or not right before this, when the episode kicked off, about depression. I'm no longer ashamed of who I am, and it just stems from events that came from living in that house. It was a great learning experience. I learned a lot about myself, and I got to meet amazing people like Myron and Trey and Ace Austin and Samantha Heights and Kyle Maverick and all these people in Ohio. And luckily enough, I was still able to go over there and wrestle for Rockstar Pro every Wednesday night. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, that's awesome, man. And I gotta say this real quick that I'm so happy for Dave and Jake that they're finally, getting the recognition they deserve, where they're on Impact, and people are seeing them on a national scale, because both those guys are so talented.
Yeah, they're super fucking good.
Now, with all the young talent out there, Cole, not just in the Midwest, but in indie wrestling, it's crazy how much young talent there is right now. Do you feel like you have to push yourself extra hard to kind of be like, hey, look at me, so to speak?
Absolutely. When the thing I like to think I do best is I like to put everybody on a scale, and I look at everybody okay, this guy's good at this guy's good at that guy's good at this. What can I do best? And in my head, I'm just well, I'm just gonna be fucking stupid crazy. I always come out, I'm full of energy throughout my matches, and I always feel I have to do something dumb to get them to remember me. So I usually take something like a dumb move or dumb crazy bump about once a match, just to try and make sure people remember who I am. So if I am wrestling somebody who's hey, I'm gonna do a dive, move out of the way, or hey, I'm gonna do the cannonball off the apron, people move out of the way and I'll eat shit. Or for for a short period of time, I was just fuck it, I want to be the guy that's best at everything. So I did a few death matches, and when I wasn't doing those, I was doing a lucha libre match or a very hard hitting match, or I was trying to mix up my matches, because at the end of the day, I want to be known as a guy that can do everything in wrestling.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That you're not kind of pigeonholing yourself, because some guys will say, well, I'm really good at this, and I'm just gonna stick with this match formula per se. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to try something out of my comfort zone.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome, and it's only going to put more eyes on you.
Yeah, because I just say if I am able to make myself decent enough at everything, people would be able to see me on any kind of DVDs. People could see me on potentially a deathmatch DVD, or they could see me on That's a high flyer CBD. But I'm not a fucking high flyer. I'm fat. You know what I mean? But
no,
in my
but
head,
I
I was like,
totally,
wait,
I totally
I'm
get
fat.
what you mean.
But you know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to do anything and everything that way I'm easily noticeable.
Absolutely. Now, I put up on Twitter last night, if anybody wanted to ask you some questions, if, to drop them here. I got a couple from the people that they want to know. This is at sun_quicken. He said he would like to know about ring psychology and putting matches together, and if you have had matches called in the ring. All the stuff that's none of my business, basically. LOL, Cole is awesome.
Yeah, I've had a few matches where it's like, nothing. It's just like, hey man, we're going out there and have fun. Cool. You know what I mean? I don't really like divulging into this too well because there could be a bad rep through it. But like, I always try to create something different. I don't like phoning it in. I don't like just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, I always try to add an extra element to everything I do. Like, I've never had the same match twice.
Yeah, so that you're not like you're not pigeonholed.
No, and that way nobody can ever watch. Like, I of course, like, I have sequences I do that like I do like pretty frequently, but other than that, like, I don't do anything that's just the same thing over and over and over and over again, because that's lame. Who would want to watch that? I wouldn't want to watch that.
No, it's like, because and I'm not going to knock this guy because he's a great wrestler, but Bret Hart, if you watch a Bret Hart match, he's going to do the exact same moves in his comeback every time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And, you just said, who wants to watch that? I know, okay, here comes the swinging neck breaker. Here comes this. Here comes that. I could tell you it in my sleep.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Nobody wants to watch that. The next one is from @struggles23. He wants to know, is it true that you are legitimately 6 feet tall?
Oh my God, I even answered this on Twitter. Yes, I'm 6 feet tall. I'm medically cleared as 6 feet tall. I don't get that. Like, I was on his podcast like 2 weeks ago, and we had this discussion that, yes, I am 6 feet tall. I don't get it.
I heard you're 6 1/4.
Yeah, 6 1/4. So I'm actually above 6 feet tall, but I don't want to make people feel bad, so I shorten it down for them a little bit.
No, I understand. We just gotta, try and find you some bigger talent to work with,
Yeah, I need some house battles, son.
Well, maybe you could get with Ace Romero. I saw the stuff you were doing over at Rockstar.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun because I'm right now I'm Mario Cole, and I'm back Cole over at
Dude,
Rockstar.
the back Cole, when I saw the picture of that shit, I started cracking up laughing. And
oh my gosh.
And people are like, oh, I'm sorry, like, some wrestling fans, they just don't know how to have fun. Like, just let it go, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't, everything is, and this is the thing with everybody, like, everybody wants to be like, fucking, beat everybody's ass, kill everybody, blah, 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 blah. It's like, man, wrestling's like supposed to be fun. Like, why not be goofy sometimes? That's who I am as a person. I'm just goofy in nature.
Yeah,
so,
like you can't
doing
always
that
be like super serious.
Exactly. You know what I mean? To me, it's like, I love to have fun in wrestling. Like, I don't like doing drama. I don't deal with drama. If there's drama, I'm always like, yep, no problem, and I piece out of it like as soon as possible.
Oh, you know absolutely, man. I hear you. And it's just, if comedy is done in a right way, it's fun. Amazing. And that's what wrestling is supposed to be.
And that's what a lot of people, like I feel like a lot of people lose sight of it. Like, and I do too. Like, I get in days where I'm in my head, and I have to remind myself, like, man, like, this shit's supposed to be fun. I always remind myself of the 12-year-old kid that loved watching wrestling, and it's the only thing he wanted to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. At Frankie, Kurtz wants to know, when are you going to come back on the East Coast, specifically New Jersey?
I did a couple things for Capital Wrestling, and there looks like, that could be in the books, coming up. I think we have a couple dates in later half of the year. So I'll be in New Jersey later half of the year for Capital Wrestling. I was booked at H2O, and then an issue that I was not at fault for caused it to not happen. So I hope I can get on over at H2O with Tremont at some point. And
Yeah,
then
because they're
other than
doing
that,
big
man,
things.
Oh, absolutely. It's like anybody watching it knows like H2O is like fucking insane. And, I'm on that grind, and hopefully, I'll end up going to Combat Zone or something like that. But until then, like, I'm going to keep working my ass off until people, say, until it becomes a thing of that, where they want Cole in New Jersey, and it becomes a point where they have to get me over there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Who's somebody that you want to wrestle that you haven't got the opportunity to yet?
Like in general or on the East Coast?
Just in general.
That's a good one. No, like, there's always so many matches I want. If you just said somebody that you've wrestled that like, or anybody you would want to wrestle, I would just say I want to wrestle Airwolf again. But fuck,
I'd personally like to see you get in there with Sami Callihan.
I've wrestled Sami.
Oh, that's true. I completely forgot.
I've wrestled Sami at the IWA 20th anniversary show. Because it was billed as Cole Radrich stream match, which was pretty freaking cool. I wrestled Sami at TPI in the first round. I wrestled Sami at Rockstar, and I did a scramble match with Sami. So those are 4 experiences. Jeez, man, you asked a really good question. There's a lot of people. Okay, I wrestled them once, but I don't count. Yeah, I've wrestled them once, but it wasn't what it should have been, so I'm not going to count that it happened. I want to wrestle Trey Miguel one-on-one.
There you go.
Because I know we could have something really freaking good. Yeah, like that's probably who I would end up saying. I don't want to wrestle one-on-one, or I'd wrestle the 4-way, but I would really like to wrestle Sean Phoenix again as well.
Yeah, that would be really good. What are some goals for you, Cole, for the rest of 2018?
See, my main goal for the end of this year is I just want to do shit that makes me happy. Like, I focus too much on, like, well, I need to do this, this, and this, and this, and, like, I kind of burnt myself out pretty bad last year. And so this year, like, it's always, like, I always tell people, like, I'm just here to have fun this year. But, of course, like, I do have goals I want to, accomplish. So, like, I really want to get back on the East Coast again. I really want to expand more over to the West, because I've only gone as far as Iowa. I just want to wrestle and have fun, and I want people to, like, just remember who I am. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, I want to wrestle for this company or that company. I just want to have good matches. I want people to, like, just to know who I am as a person and as a talent. And, I just want to be happy again. I want to fall in love with wrestling again. And I'm not saying I don't love wrestling, but, like, there's more I could be doing in my head. And, like, I'm working on it. I'm in the gym constantly. I'm focusing on bettering myself. But there's more I know I could be doing.
No, that absolutely makes sense. Now, you recently have been teaming with Sage Phillips.
Yeah,
as Hysteria. How did that all come about?
So we had a tryout show for Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment in Atlanta, Georgia. It was Sage. It was like my 10th match, and it was my first out-of-state show. And then it was Sage's like 3rd match, if I'm not mistaken. And we got told, like, hey, you guys are wrestling Dale Patrickson and Mance Warner in like a tryout show for this. So we're like, okay, cool. And they're like, all right, Sage Cole, your own team. And me and Sage were like, fuck, like, who are we going to be? Like, and well, he's from Bloomington, and I live right out of Bloomington. And Bloomington has Indiana Hoosiers, and it's Hoosier Hysteria. So we're always, so it kind of adds up. So we've always gone by Hysteria. And then, we tagged and we were like, man, like, it was kind of fun. So we started just doing tag team wrestling like everywhere. We've done New Jersey, we've done Alabama, we've done Tennessee with the Hooligans, we've wrestled as a team in Illinois, and we've wrestled all throughout Indiana as a tag team. And it just kind of became fun and easy to, understand what tag team wrestling is. It's like, and I'm not saying I know what it is. I'm still learning. But like I love tag team wrestling because there's a beautiful art to it.
Absolutely,
I would probably say.
I was gonna say, and you don't really see that art in today's wrestling.
Yeah, it's always scramble matches or,
Triple
which isn't a bad thing.
Or...
Yeah, like tag team wrestling is like there's only like 1 or 2 matches per show, but like when tag you have OI4K, you have Scarlet and Graves, you have the Carnies, you have all these like really good tag teams out there, and it's like, man, like it's so much fucking fun. Like me and Sage had a really good run against with Trey Miguel and Zachary Winston, IWA Mid South.
Yeah,
that culminated at Simply the Best 11, and we had a really fucking good tag match.
Right, I just saw Trey and Myron wrestle Private Party this past weekend.
At Combat Zone?
Yeah.
Oh, I bet that was really fucking good.
Yeah, it was really good. Now, what was your thoughts on tagging with Sage? You like doing that, or would you rather just do like the singles thing?
I love doing both. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, me and Sage, we know who we are as a tag team. He's a smart technical wrestler. I'm the goofy psycho, like, dive, crazy move guy. And but Sage is really smart when it comes to like technical wrestling and knowing like how things need to be placed. And of course, like if you hear me talk, I ramble a lot. He's always there to like, hey Cole, like shut up, like this is what we need to do. But I also, I love doing single stuff because there are things in tag team wrestling I can't do as a single competitor, and there's things as a single competitor I can't do in tag team wrestling. So I love doing both. I love wrestling with Sage. It's so much fun. Like, he's one of my best friends I've ever had. We've had some awesome matches for Emerge Wrestling out of Columbus, Indiana. We've wrestled the Carnies twice, and we're going to actually wrestle them again at the Dynamite Cup in Lafayette on June 23rd this year. Just a lot of good things, that come out of teaming with Sage.
No, that's awesome. Now, I would personally like to see you at some point get in like the best of the best type tournaments and those types of things. Is that something that interests you?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I would love to do best of the best or anything similar to that, because I feel like there's a thing I've always said to people is like, anytime I've ever gotten an opportunity, I've killed it. Like, I've done Pro Wrestling Revolver for Sammy, and Sammy's just like, hey man, like this is just an opportunity. Like, it's up to you whether or not you kill it. And not like, this is going to sound like I'm bragging, but like this is just a thing that you can listen to and it's true. Like, I'm the only person who got their name chanted throughout that scramble match, and then me and Ace Austin were the only people that got their names chanted throughout the scramble match at the Naito Takes Dayton Revolver show. Like, I've like anytime I ever get an opportunity, I 100% like dive in and I kill it. So if I ever got an opportunity like that, like I can guarantee you that I'm going to go out there, I'm going to do anything and absolutely everything I can do to have the best match there. Like, I may not have the best match, but you'll definitely know, like, I put everything in my body to having one of the better matches I could have.
Right. Now, to wrap this up, what can fans expect from Cole Radrich in the future?
You're going to see me, I kind of pigeonhole myself, and I was only wrestling, like, the same shows every year. But, like, because I used to travel, and then, I kind of stopped traveling. Like, by the end of this year, you're going to see me traveling a lot more. I've got dates lined up all the way in Illinois. I got dates in New Jersey. I got dates down south in Florida and Georgia. You're going to see me traveling a lot. I'm going to go out there, try to get my name out there. I'm just going to keep working on doing what I need to do. I want to wrestle, and I'm going to, be giftable. You know what I mean? You're going to see a lot. I'm hoping by the end of this year, everybody knows who I am and knows if they haven't seen me, they at least want to see me by the end of this year.
All right. Now, if people want to get a hold of you on social media and, talk to you and all that stuff, how can they reach you?
I'm super easy. It's at Cole Radrich for everything. It's COLERADRICK. That's the same thing for Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, anything and everything social media. That's the way to get a hold of me.
Hey, it's easy and simple. Do it that way.
Easy, simple, man.
One thing. All right.
Yep.
Before we get out of here, don't forget to check out our social media stuff as well. You can find it at facebook.com/American Sports Connection or on Twitter at ASCPods, PODS. On that note, we're going to head out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, give it a thumbs up, all that stuff. And we'll see you back next time. Have a good night, everybody.